We are. Hi, Joey, welcome. Everyone, how you doing, Joey?
I'm doing great.
Own Your Gifts, episode 5. We've got some crazy um, questions to talk about today, some great topics around recovery. And I just want to let people know if you're joining us for the first time, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you on. And if you're rejoining us on a weekly basis, it's also, we're grateful to have you joining us once again. Today, we've had a bit of a technical difficulty. Apparently, there's a little bit of a time difference issue going on over there in America and here in Australia. Would that be right to say that, Joe?
Yeah, we kind of screwed this all up, or I didn't do the research. Here in the United States, our clocks on the 14th of March move ahead an hour. So
Ah.
that didn't happen in Australia, or you mentioned certain parts of Australia that did, and
Do you call that
I
daylight savings?
misadvertised it. Yeah, they call it daylight saving. I call it
Yeah, there you go.
stupidity. Call it stupidity is what I call it.
Uh,
It makes no sense. There's not any explanation of why that benefits anybody or anything that anybody has given me that makes any sense to me. But that's just
there is a benefit, Joe. I'll share that with you later. If there is here a pretty obvious benefit, but I don't want to. It's like I'm going to go into the weather. Hey, guys, if you're
I'm
joining
going to
us,
be a hard sell. Definitely going to be a hard sell.
no, I think I've got the perfect
All
actual
right,
answer for it, which
we'll
might
see.
make a lot of sense. But anyway, hi Sarah, thank you so much for joining. Sarah says hi, Joey. If you are
Hello.
joining us, please drop your comments. Let us know where you're watching from, and if you're watching live. Today, Joey's put together some content, some amazing and really thoughtful questions around some of the questions that pop up in our everyday lives, and especially being people and men in recovery. These questions are quite profound, like, for example, let me just rattle off a couple of these questions, Joey, so our audience knows, and they're probably in the link post already. But I'm sober now. Now I'm sober. Now what? Like we get in, then what do we do? Is this all there is to life? How do I live? How do I manage my stress, my anxiety? How do I regain my health? How do I reclaim my time and energy? How do I manage my sleep? How do I achieve balance? Joey, balance is the key. That if we get to pick questions, what we get to answer here today and talk about, I'd love to talk about balance, because balance, I think, is this most incredible thing that I've had to work on and balance to be able to maintain a healthy and happy life. What do you think, Joe?
I think balance is important. It seems to elude me still today. I seem to be, really diving in. Either diving into my recovery or diving into my work or diving into my health, I have healthier habits, or things that may be compulsive about. And winding up in the middle is an ideal that I think we shoot for. But in
Sure.
most cases, at least for me, as a human being, as a human being in recovery from addiction, seems to be just like a North Star that I drive towards, is not really a place that I can arrive. But what do you think about
Interesting.
that?
Yeah, man. Look, I hear what you're saying. Like, I'm not trying to suggest that I have a perfect balance by any means. So I love that, the Northern Star. Like, that's where I'm heading. There's a goal. But I can tell you this much. My schedule is tight. Like, my life is so full, and I run amazingly like clockwork these days. Like, literally, I arrive 5 minutes before a meeting every time, on time, and I don't know how I managed to do that. My tip would be, I always aim to be early. I think that's the key. I think on time is late. So if you get that mentality going on and get there early, that's how I sort of managed to do it. But let me just throw a couple of things into the mix that I need to do in my life on a daily basis. I've got a beautiful daughter who takes up 99.9% of my time when I'm with her. I'm a guy, I can't do two things at once, so I've got her. Right, I've got my physical exercise. We're going to cover that question today, but that's something I need to do every morning, 6 days a week at least. I've got my recovery, should be number one. I've got to balance that. I've got my business, and then I've got I've got the service that I do. There's a whole heap of stuff. I think I'm missing a real big one in there too, but it's like, but now, and I think it's like. And this answers one of our other questions, but let's just say our head's this big filing cabinet. Joey, I just want to let you know we've got about 7 people live. We've got people coming in from Texas, from Toronto. I know Jean's from Arizona. Hey, Jean. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Kurt. Thanks for joining us. But I was going to say, like, head's like this messy filing cabinet when I got clean. And I noticed the more attention I showed to recovery and nurturing and looking after myself, and actually I'm talking about meetings for me, like I was at fellowship meetings, it's as if that messy filing cabinet started to get put in a bit of order, and the busier I became, the more time I seemed to have because I worked a well-oiled filing system. This is at my best. Some days I'm a mess. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do it perfectly. I'll share a little bit about what was like recovery for me in the early days. To let people know that it's not easy, and sometimes, and I fall in that category. When you remove alcohol and drugs, even with a program of recovery, you get a lot sicker before you get any better. And that was my story is when they removed alcohol, or when I removed myself from alcohol and drugs, I got hit with a lot of the stuff that I was medicating and managing life with, like, depression, anxiety, stress, self-pity, guilt, shame, all at once. And, I didn't handle it. I did not handle it well. I was able to, stay clean and sober a day at a time. And I need to credit that with mostly just being really consistent in relation to my program of recovery. But as far as like, holistic functional health, I was a far cry from that. And one of my tools was another addiction. And I picked up food, and I turned to food. And when I got clean in August 2009, I was about 220 pounds. So I'm close to that now. And from 2009 to 2015, I went from 220 pounds to 415 pounds, and I was killing myself with food. And my bottom in recovery, and that's with, getting to a meeting every day, being of service, doing the deep work necessary, in order to, stay away from a drink and a drug, a day at a time. Sometimes it's just hanging on. Sometimes it's just hanging on. Like I said, I got slammed with that anxiety and depression and stress. And when I went into public, there were times when I would wake up on the floor. I was having panic attacks, and people would be standing around me, concerned and wondering what the hell happened. I'd open my eyes, and there'd be a group of people around me. I had no idea what had happened. And so, I think I was, a lot of the work that I was doing and over the course of 5 years were building up, and I was slowly getting better without me realizing it. But, come when I had another, what I like to call a spiritual intervention, I guess, when I was about 6 years sober, and it came in a way of a dream. I was visited. from my grandfather in a dream, and he told me he said he was screaming at me, and I love to tell this story because it's one of those turning points in my life, where
Please do.
he was screaming at me. You know, he who isn't busy being born is busy dying, screaming at me frantically. And this was a man who'd never raised his voice, I realized right then that, hey, you know, although I was sober and I was working a program in recovery, I was barely surviving. And I certainly wasn't jumping in the stream of life. And I woke that day committed to take back control of my health. And, and I started to do that very slowly, adding one habit at a time. So, you know, the big thing for me, and that's one of the questions on there, was who? Like, who am I? A lot of the work that we do in recovery is about, you know, why, what happened, you know, cleaning up the past, you know, and you know, I didn't know that I had a I had a choice to decide who I want to be. You know, I didn't know that I could create that I could create that with my thinking. I can create that with a very clear intention, coupled with positive emotion, and create a new future for myself. So who am I? Like I lived decades in addiction. And even before I picked up a drink, I felt super uncomfortable in my own skin. And I never felt one of, and I didn't know that I had a choice. So the key is that like, I don't have to be my past. I can create a compelling future for myself.
Yeah, sure. Joey, you know, just get going. There's a few things in that. You know, when you're talking about swapping, you know, your addiction and you picked up the food, you know, it made me think of a couple of cliches. Just like drop two cliches and let me know if you've got any more. But I remember swapping the witch for the bitch is one of the ones that made it like it's a little bit fun and made a lot of sense to me, you know. And the other is we put down the spoon like that in spoon that we'll mix it up, and we picked up the fork. You know, you know, yeah, cliches floating around your fellowship over there.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
yeah, but it's so true, isn't it? Like and the rehab spread. Like we're very lucky here in Sydney and Australia. I know it's absolutely different for you guys, but I had so many admissions to amazing treatment centres, public health system treatment centres that would fatten you up. You know, I'd often go in there with eating for days, and I'd come out of there if I lasted long enough with a bit of the rehab spread. You know, so that's another common one that happens, mate. But I completely identify and relate with that, which then goes back to balance again for me. You know, I can right now. I'm on a bit of a healthy eating plan for my head, you know, but it's something that's incredibly important for me, and it goes back to the energy levels. You know, like when we're in recovery, I need to get the most out of life, and if I'm feeling sluggish, and I know I certainly have for many years, and it takes me some time to realize that maybe my food has got some impact. Smoking cigarettes can be another one that impacts that. Not getting enough sleep. You know, I love to train hard at the gym too. So if I'm not getting enough sleep and recovery time too, I'm going to be feeling sluggish. So it all comes back to that balancing, you know. But over the years, I guess I have really found the importance of that balance and getting all those aspects. You know, it's mental, physical, and spiritual, as we know. And it took me years to identify and to learn that. You know, I loved your question around who am I as well. And let me just share a little bit about that. Like, and as long as this is as long as we don't pick up, yeah. I love sharing with people like the struggles, the pain, the broken relationships, the trouble you get yourself into. This is the stuff that we start to learn to identify who we are. You know, what do I like? What do I not like? You know, how do I put boundaries in place to get what I want? Am I, and how important are they? You know, like it took me. I don't think you can just get clean, put down the drugs, and start to realize anytime soon who am I. You know, I think today, 11 years, 5.5 months, or maybe 6 months into the journey, I have a really good understanding of who I am. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. You know, I know what works for me, Joey, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And I think it's also why my spirits are often so high, because I can nurture and look after that stuff. And I guess I'm just sharing this with anyone watching. And hello to anyone else new that's joined. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Kerry. Um, I heard also in the early days of me getting clean and sober, and you mentioned, yeah, like we get sicker before we get better. I love that. And it's so true. Of course, we put down the drugs. Drugs weren't actually the problem. I just had no idea on how to live life, you know. So then I'm thrown in the middle. I've got no security blanket and I need to start learning how to live. And I can't enjoy myself and in those early days like that. So yeah, look, these are all wonderful questions. Please, if you're watching, let us know if you've got any questions around this stuff. But ultimately, Joanne, I just want to drop this. Like, I think when I started to learn who I was and I started to learn the balance, I started to practice healthy living habits. And congratulations to you for losing all that weight too. That's a massive achievement, you know. That's when I started to find some true happiness.
Yeah, I think for me, the first and foremost thing is to set myself up to win. Like I need to be able to be living in integrity, and that means I need to do what I say I'm going to do to myself. And so, you know, obviously in the way of recovery, it's like, okay, I've been living one way for 2 decades, and so now I need to live a different way. For me to expect that I'm going to be able to do that overnight, or that's a magic bullet, is set myself up to fail. So it's really identifying the little tiny things that I do each day that make me a success, which was really difficult for me because is I had a brain that only focused on where I fell short, and that's one of the things that we do in recovery. We need to take a really good hard look at, you know, where it is we fall short, like how it is we wronged other people, like what is it about our character and our personality and our human shortcomings that aren't serving us anymore, or what may have harmed others. And, you know, whether you're a person who struggled with alcohol or any type of addiction, you know, I don't necessarily think this is only about alcohol and drugs. I think whatever it is, whatever addictive behavior that we're using to fill that hole up and quiet our mind, whether it be shopping, gambling, oversexing, overeating, undereating, it doesn't really matter. It really is the same thing. So I don't know, man. It's when very, very early in recovery, I had a mentor of mine, told me that the most important thing in recovery, and if you take no other message away, is consistency. And so what my recovery looked like really early on, and I mentioned that I was in bad shape. Like what it looked like for me when I was 4 months sober was, I slept 20 hours a day. I obsessed about suicide and using, and all I could do is get to a meeting. I got sober in a 12-step rooms, get to a meeting every day, and once a week meet with my sponsor there, so we can go over start beginning to go through our literature, a page at a time, and start doing the work that's required for us to free ourselves. And that's all I was able to do for a long time, and like I said, I was killing myself in a whole nother different way. And that's not everybody's story. Like, this is my personal journey. Some people come into recovery, they remove the alcohol and drugs, they start changing their behaviors, they start to be consistent, and they get well. But it's not always the case, which is why I like to always talk about this, because sometimes it takes a whole lot longer. And despite your best efforts, you might not get well right away. The most important thing is that I don't pick up a drink.
For sure, mate.
Back.
Sorry. I'm trying to get technical. We lost a couple of viewers, and I was trying to get technical, Joey, and I heard everything you said. I was trying to highlight you, and yeah, you and I we're just doing our best here on this journey of recovery and
Yeah, we're
entrepreneurship.
winging it. We're winging it here. We're getting out here. We're getting vulnerable. We're sharing our truths. We're sharing what worked, what didn't work, our failures, our wins, our victories, our setbacks. And if one person on here, walks away from this thing with a little more hope than we got here, we've done our job. So I appreciate everybody being patient. I can't see, I can't see the people who are on. I can't see whether they're commenting or not. I will say that if there's something that you want, any questions that you want to ask, or if you yourself are in recovery from addiction or in active addiction, or you have or maybe somebody that you work with, a client or a loved one who is struggling with addiction or in recovery. What do you see as a common thread as far as like what people struggle with most in recovery? If you want to post that in the comments, Danny will be able to relate that to us.
Sure.
So Danny, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Like, what would you say are your top three? You mentioned that exercise is huge, right? Like, what are your top three go-to recovery habits that are your bread and butter? Like, you don't miss it. It's non-negotiable. You probably wouldn't be able to get through the day without picking up a drink if you didn't do those things.
Yeah.
Do you have them?
For me, absolutely. The physical is, hitting the gym of a morning. And I'd love to share how important that is. For myself, it took me a couple of years to get into that habit, and it wasn't. And I got into the habit of going to the gym because I heard that muscle burns fat. So I thought, all right, man, I don't have to stop eating. I'm just going to get muscly. You know what I mean? I thought it was like a loophole. I thought, all right, I can't eat muscly, so maybe if I get muscly, I'll get skinny or something. And yeah,
I love it.
I got to admit, I still got the same mentality. I don't eat the best, even though I do try. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I am on a bit of a good diet at the moment. But so the physical fitness does so much for me. It's the most important part of my program. Not to take away how important my meetings are, my service, my connection, my higher power, but physical. It's the way my day starts off. So what happens is my spirit wakes up when I'm at the gym. It's where I get my sort of endorphins, my natural high for the day, and I'm able to tackle anything. Number two, I think absolutely is kindness. And when I say kindness, I guess I'm talking about service. I truly believe I only keep what I have by giving it away. Which is exactly what this show is about. Our topic, you and I sharing our experience, strength, and hope with anyone else out there. So service, and to break that down further, I think kindness is another one that I can't do without. And number three for me, is the higher power. Is God. I'm going to call it God. I'm going to name it God. Just for anyone out there who's not into that, It's just a word that I picked up in the early days. It worked for me. Call it whatever you want. I call it God, but it's my higher power. It's something that I've learned along in this journey that I can't do this alone. I think prayer, to really break it down, I think I'm just talking to myself. I hear my thoughts out loud and I move towards those thoughts. I don't personally haven't experienced some big spiritual outside force, but of my spirit woke up absolutely, Joey. And I think I like to call that God. So yeah, definitely the higher power, the physical exercise, and kindness and service would be the three that I cannot live a day without. And let me share this with you: I do not ever go without those three in every single day. Do not ever get complacent. I heard that in my early days of recovery, and I hung on to it. Basically saying, Danny, you get complacent, you start dropping any of those critical three, you're going to you can die maybe. I'm pretty extreme with my thinking, but yeah, I will not miss a day without practicing those three, mate. What about yourself, Joey?
Um, and I consider my recovery kind of happening in two halves. There was the first half, which was a real struggle. And then, after 2015, things changed a little bit for me. And I started to get out of the woods a little bit and started to be a little more gentler with myself and give myself permission to be human and prioritize my health and everything surrounded like that, and being really careful with the way that I speak to myself and my mental and emotional hygiene. But the first part of recovery was like I said, it was ugly for me, but I did several things every single day without missing. And that was to get to a meeting every single day. Like I might have missed over the course of 11 plus years. I may have missed 15 meetings. That was just something that was driven into me. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I kept getting to a meeting every day. Another thing is also prayer. Prayer and meditation. I have a consistent meditation practice. I haven't missed a day of meditation since March 2015. I did it in a sporadic way earlier in recovery, but meditation is it's about focus, right? It's about what you pay attention to. I do a little more traditional type of meditation, like a traditional breath work type meditation. But there's many ways that you can meditate, and the worst thing you could do is overthink it. I would say that I like to break it down really simple. There's two kinds of meditation: the kind that you do and the kind that you don't do. If you're practicing it, you're meditating. So it's getting to a meeting every day, prayer and meditation practice, surrounding myself with people who are serious about the recovery, reading some, even if it's a paragraph, one page of recovery literature, something to lift my spirits, something that's going to treat my disease. And most importantly, because I lived a life of only caring about me and having my needs met, and what can I get, or what did I have that someone's going to take. So most importantly is to help somebody every day. Something really simple, and that falls in line with your kindness. It's like, I need to be always looking outside myself, because sometimes I can't see past my own face, The
service. Yeah. And that selflessness, that's what it is about. When we get off ourselves and we can help someone else, there's this amazing amount of power in that. And I just want to acknowledge also, I heard in the early days of recovery, we keep what we have by giving it away. So in fact, we do all this stuff. It's that twist, ultimately, because we're doing it for ourselves anyway. So beautiful, Joey. I agree. Spot on. That prayer has been very important, and looking after ourselves. And the meetings, you say, that's what I want to say. Guys, if you're watching, I just want to share with you, one of the things I love about Joey is he got clean and sober on the, what date?
August 20th, 2009.
Yes, so like 20 days before me in 2009. I love that. connection. And I think, and crazily enough, we had a guest lined up for the show next week, who will be on the following week. We'd also got a clean date within the same month. Is that right, Joey?
Yeah, she's going to be with us next week, the following Thursday, and yeah, she's in September 2009 too, and she's going to be a great guest. This is an amazing story of somebody overcoming adversity and and coming out the other side and consistently paying it forward. So I'm really excited to have her on our show. And now that my life is a lot different and I've prioritized my health, the most important thing I do, aside from the things that I always did, is my morning routine, which really aligns with yours, Danny. And
Yeah, sure.
my morning routine always includes something mental, something physical, something emotional, and something spiritual. And I have to set myself up to it starts with me making my bed. That was another thing that I was told early on in recovery is like you want a really good idea of what your recovery looks like before you walk out your door in the morning. Turn around and look at your bed, and that's this. He was a military guy, but guess what? Like, it does multiple things. For one, like I'm a big believer that the most powerful things in the world enter through the smallest things, and two, I start my day off with a win. Like, if I fuck up the rest of the day, at least I did that right. If I made my bed and I don't pick up a drink or a drug, it's a winning day for me. So my morning routine is I usually, first thing I do is I make my bed, then I drink at least 16 ounces of water, and take my probiotics. We can lose up to a pound of water at night through respiration and perspiration. And then I do some while I prepare my coffee, I do some oil pulling, which is a Ayurvedic technique where you swish oil around in your mouth. It pulls the toxins out of your mouth.
Wow.
And then I get right into my prayer, exercise, and meditation practice. I do about 2 minutes of prayer. I exercise just for like 6-10 minutes, but I get my heart rate up, and then I do 4 minutes of meditation, and I go right from there into a freezing cold shower, and that's how I start my morning. And I don't miss it, and I could do it in 6 minutes if I need to. But after I get out of the shower, I usually do some reading and writing. It's usually some sort of spiritual literature or recovery literature, and I journal. I'll journal. Sometimes I'll have a prompt that I ask myself and write. Sometimes I'll just write what's on my mind. Sometimes I'll write about what I dreamt about. Sometimes I'll just it's just stream of consciousness journaling for about 5 minutes. Fortunately, I'm working right now. I have a lot of freedom and time. Like I run my own business, and I run it from my house, and so I can stretch that morning routine out for an hour and a half, and I'm really dialed in. But by the time I hit the ground running, and I schedule my work schedule around that. But for 10 plus years of my recovery, I worked a 9 to 5. I work 70 hours a week, and I am still able to get that in. So my morning routine is the most important thing for me, because I wake up in the morning. Still to this day, I wake up to feeling stressed and having anxiety and being in fear, and I need to get on top of that right away. I need to ask for help, and I need to change my physiology. I need to change my focus. I need to be really clear on my purpose and my meaning and my mission in life, and I need to be really careful about my language, specifically the language that I use for myself.
Mm. Joey, you are an incredible man. You've got a solid morning routine there, and I just want to acknowledge a couple of things. Firstly, like the journey to recovery and this ongoing journey for 11 and a half years for you, it's no easy task. And for me, I should talk, it's no easy task, and you just rattled off a whole heap of things, which it's just so routine, mate, and I'm dedicated, and I think that's amazing your program, your morning program, and your daily program.
I think
Yeah.
it's important to mention that I started that with one tiny step.
Yeah, absolutely.
One
It is
tiny step. Like
sure.
when I was 5 years sober and I was 415 pounds, I did have a prayer practice. I had a meditation practice. I had solid recovery habits, but
Yeah.
physical exercise, forget it. I had to start by like, hey, just try to drink 60 ounces of water a day. That's how habits are built. Habits, I don't need to invent the wheel. You need to start really small, impossible to fail small. And that's where the consistency comes in. If you do it consistently, you start to build some momentum and then you could add a little bit more. I just added a tiny bit, but it's been years. So
But
that's where I am
consistency.
now. I've been
Yeah.
super consistent and I took
Yeah.
zero leaps. I
I'm
took
hearing you,
zero
mate.
large steps. I took
Yeah.
lots of really tiny steps. You add a little to a little, it makes a great heap.
Sarah said small steps every day, and you're absolutely right. And you're right, Sarah. And it's been very similar to me too, Joey. But yeah, still, that's a pretty impressive morning routine. Mine personally, and I think it's important that we identify, and it goes back to who I am. That question, like I know what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and I know my criticals. The stuff I need to implement every day. And like you said, I know. And to me, these days, I do all my daily routine without even thinking about it. It just comes second nature. But it's my daily inventory. Probably the most important one is at night when I check in with myself. How did I go today? What did I do good today? What could I possibly do tomorrow? And I know I've shared this before. And then wrap it up with a bit of prayer too. But that stuff's incredibly yeah, it's longevity. That's why I'm still here. It's obviously why you're still here. And if you're in the early days of recovery, and fuck, it was so overwhelming knowing that there's so much to do. And I want to acknowledge once again that it's not easy, but I reckon, Joey, the easy way is the hard way. So, skipping some of those steps and not getting involved in all that stuff is actually the hard way. I found the hard way was the easy way, and that was throwing myself in the middle, getting involved in all these things, all the suggested things. Yeah, Joey, why don't we look? We're coming up to almost 40 minutes. Thanks everyone for joining us for so long. But I'd love to hear from you quickly. I think it's important. Like, where are you now, Joe? What are you doing? You mentioned that you work for yourself now. Would you mind giving us a bit of a pitch about? I see you're heading on the page, efficiency life coaching. Would you want to tell us a little bit about that, mate? I'd love to
Yeah,
hear a bit more.
sure. It's efficacy life coaching. People struggle with that word, but I love it, so I keep it. Yeah, I built most of my life. I built high end custom furniture. I'm a woodworker and I'm a craftsman, and it. I had maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I started feeling very unfulfilled in that career, and it really wasn't stimulating my creativity anymore. And it became a means to an end, and I was lacking passion. And somebody, a mentor of mine told me, he said, look at what you've done over the course of 11 years. Like, you look at all the areas of your life that you transformed. And he said to me that I would be doing myself and the world a disservice if I wasn't helping other people to do the same. Now, I was doing a lot of service in the recovery communities, but I think I had something different to offer. And I was plugged into the personal development world, mostly out of desperation and necessity to learn how to live and to, start to create a life for myself and to regain my health, to regain my time and energy, all these things. But I decided that, hey, being a life coach, I just had an aha moment, like a
Amazing.
spark. I had a spark, and that's where efficacy life coaching was born. And I work with I work with mostly people in addiction. in recovery from addiction, helping them to uncover and discover the type of people that they want to be, and to design a system to help them get there and give them the support to do that. But it seems like for me, I've been having some people in my network bring me, and I'm getting the opportunity to work with some teenagers, teenagers who have aren't even necessarily are alcoholics or drug addicts or in recovery, but simply teenagers who have, lost touch with their life force, to try to uncover a passion for them, to try to get them some wins, to try to build momentum. And so that's what I'm really excited about right now, is the work that I'm doing with teens. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something that I thought would fit into where I would be able to best serve. But and I'm now working with two teenage clients under the age of 16, and I really enjoy it. And it's just amazing to see somebody who comes in completely defeated and just with really no real hope about the future, and see the lights come on. And so I think I'm going to be spending a lot more time doing that. But in general, I work in the area of health and wellness, and helping people with their mindset, and you mentioned the mind, body, soul integration with people in recovery. That's efficacy life coaching.
Amazing, Joey. It sounds like you're doing some wonderful work, and that's stuff with the youth, with the younger generation. Like, get in early, it makes so much sense. And it's amazing, and I love, and I'm inspired how people's journey changes directions as we move towards our goals. If we keep this open mind, this is such recovery talk, but if I continue to keep an open mind and move forward one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, amazing opportunities are presented to us. And it sounds like you have one of those opportunities going on there with the teens and the youth.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have a vision, and I wasn't starting to take action, take steps towards that vision, and I didn't tie that to a positive emotion, I wouldn't even seen that door open.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a wonderful interview, and a
Thank
great
you.
show tonight. And I feel, I don't know if you've picked up on it, and I love it when I feel like I have been to the gym today, and I also had a really successful meeting go down just before we joined each other. It's funny how it's like 10:40 p.m. It's only 1:30 p.m. Just after lunch.
The following day. The following day.
Amazingly.
Yeah, it's Thursday, 10:30 p.m. here on the East Coast in the United States, and you're the following day at what? What time is it?
Yeah, 1:30 p.m. You are talking to the future, Joey.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
Makes me it's an amazing opportunity what we get to do here. But
that's a special power of an addict, to be able to communicate with people in the future.
Which actually brings me to what I've been doing, Joey. I don't know if you know, and anyone out there.
I do.
Look, we've had quite a few people jumping in to say hello. Thank you everyone for joining us. But yes, I am the founder of Encapsulator, Joey, which is a time capsule platform allowing individuals to record messages of love and hope to the future you. I came up with this idea early in my days of recovery. I was sitting there reflecting on how well I had done the previous 5 years and full of gratitude. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder what I was like back then when I entered those doors of rehabilitation, the early days of 2009, September. I wonder what I was like. And I thought, imagine if I created a video recording, a message to myself in the future. I did a little bit of research on some questions you might want to answer going into time capsule video. And I started that camera rolling, and immediately when I started recording that video, Joey, it's unlike anything I'd ever done before. This was me talking to myself in the future. It was quite an odd, unique, weird experience, but very therapeutic in the same space. We've now developed this into a web platform providing time capsule videos, allowing individuals to reflect on their present moment and record their hopes, their dreams, and their future aspirations. And then this stuff, this private confidential video gets locked away into our secure time locked vault. The countdown means your video just disappears, waiting to be rediscovered at a predetermined date in the future. I just couldn't help that opportunity to practice my pitch there. But I think, coming from this meeting that I just had, we've started to implement our time capsules into the youth, actually. Some young kids ranging from 15 to 17 at a school just local to me. And they just light up when using the platform too. So I feel so chuffed and grateful, and also excited about the opportunities that are happening. So thank you for being part of my journey with that as well, mate.
I just love that idea. I think it's such a useful tool, whether you're using it for recovery or in relationship or business. It's a remarkable thing to do. Like you sent me, you allowed me to try it out, and I haven't done it yet. But I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it in relation to my business. And I wish I would have done it from day one, because I always sell myself short. What I think is possible and what's actually possible aren't aligned at all. So I could see how it would be a really useful tool.
Look, Joey, go ahead, get on it and start recording the message. When we verbalize our goals, our hopes, our dreams out loud, it's very beneficial. We remember we said that, and we know that video is coming. It adds this extra level of accountability and the motivation to achieve our goals. And it also gives us an opportunity to respond to stuff without any fear of judgment. Talk about stuff. Nobody else is judging you except you. That's partly our problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you don't want me to judge me. I'm in trouble. Well,
Joey,
thank you for a great show. Thank you everybody who participated and who watched. I'm really sorry that I fucked up the time. It's Australia doesn't do the what is it, daylight savings, and you could try to convince me later, Danny, why that makes sense, because I can't see why it makes sense. But anyway, not this coming week. This coming week we're taking the week off. The following week we're going to have a great guest.
I can't wait for that guest. There's going to be 3 of us who got clean in the same month, back in 2009. And I don't mean to such I often hear this thing thrown around like clean time is just a number. The cleanest person is woke up earliest today, right? And I get it. It's a daily program. But at the same time, I can't sort of explain enough how connected I feel to you, because back then in August 2009, we were doing the same thing, mate.
Yeah.
Before you got clean, well, probably, I don't know, but I won't go into details what I was doing, but I wasn't,
I was laying in the gutter, man. That's where I was.
I was pretty much
I'm very comfortable there,
shooting smack and doing anything I could to change the way I feel. Today, I share kindness and I do service. I pray and I do physical exercise to change the way I feel, mate.
Yeah, we're still changing the way I feel. We're just using different vehicles.
Absolutely.
Healthier vehicles.
Thank you so much for the engagement. It's been a pleasure to have you. Joey, thank you for your time, mate. Stick around for a sec. I'll end the feed and we'll...
Thank you, everybody. Danny, it's always a pleasure.
2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm actually off to Byron Bay, Joey, which is why next Friday or Thursday for you, I'll be in between flying and I won't have a stable connection, but we'll see if we can work out a show we can fit in between. Otherwise, we'll see.
We don't exactly have a stable connection tonight either, and we pulled it off, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not that stable either, Joey. Just a few, right?
I got a couple screws loose.
Yeah.
Stability. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.